Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I've had such a time trying to film this. Let me tell y'all, I recorded it once like 2 weeks ago and somehow deleted it before I got the chance to edit it and upload it. And just now I've been talking for about 15 minutes and realized that I had not pushed record. So here we go. Third time's a charm. I hope so, you guys. We're going to do the second recap to the second episode of Secrets of Playboy. Now, the second episode, let me go ahead and tell you guys who all is featured in the second episode. We have Holly Madison. And this episode is featured, it's really more her story. There's several people that's in the episode, but this particular episode, we get to hear mainly Holly Madison's story. Now, Holly Madison, she was Hugh Hefner's main girlfriend from 2001 2008, so they dated for 7 years. She was also one of the 3 girls from The Girls Next Door, the TV show that kind of introduced Playboy to just your everyday household. You know what I'm saying? Also in this episode is Allison Reynolds. Allison Reynolds is a photographer, also a close friend of Hugh Hefner, so close that he actually walked her down the aisle when she married this next guy that is actually on this episode, Joel Berliner. He's married to Allison, also friends of Hugh Hefner. And Allison and Joel, they both spoke very nicely of Hugh Hefner. Next, we have Sandra Theodore. She dated Hugh Hefner from 1976 to 1981. She was 19 years old when she started dating Hugh Hefner, and he was in his 50s. Next, we have Jennifer Saganor. Now, Jennifer Saganor was introduced to us in the very first episode. The first episode was mainly her story. She was raised in the Playboy Mansion. She is the daughter of Mark Saganor, who was Hugh Hefner's personal and private doctor. Next, we have Jonathan Baker, who is a friend of Hugh Hefner. However, while he's a friend of Hugh Hefner, and that's how he come to know Holly Madison, he actually spoke really nicely of Holly Madison. Next, we have Bridget, who was also one of the girls next door. And then we have Richard Bann, which was, he's one of Hugh Hefner's oldest friends. And he's the guy that shares the story at the beginning of every episode to kind of explain how Hugh Hefner went from Hugh to Hef. There was this heartbreak that he dealt with in his early years where he just changed his entire personality, his wardrobe, everything, and he went from being Hugh to Hef. So that's Richard Bann, one of Hugh Hefner's oldest friends. He's in this. He speaks very highly of Hugh Hefner as well. So Holly, she tells her story. She tells her story on how she came to live at the mansion, date Hugh Hefner, what her experience was like while dating Hugh Hefner. She also gives us a little bit of a glimpse into the person that she says Hugh Hefner really was. She talks about why she left and why she decided to speak out. Now, the comments that I'm getting on my videos about this, a lot of people's like, why are they waiting so long to speak out? Like, why didn't they speak out when he was still alive? Poor man's dead. He can't defend himself. All of the girls say that there was no way they could have spoken out beforehand because he could have, you know, he had revenge porn on them. He could have financially ruined them. He could have went after them. Also, Hugh Hefner had ways of shutting things down before they would happen. So all the girls were intimidated because he was very powerful, whereas these girls not so much. After he passed away and the brand kind of denounced Hugh Hefner, they no longer fear speaking out. Now, she talks about growing up, how she loved Jenny McCarthy, how she loved Marilyn Monroe and Nicole Smith. And she knew them as actresses, but the way they got into acting, she said, was they were Playboy models first. So she initially wanted to be an actress, but in her mind, the way to achieve that was to be a Playboy model. You become a Playboy model, you can become an actress. So when she got into her teenage years, she started doing modeling. She was working for this company modeling. She said she was at an event to which Hugh Hefner's doctor, Mark Saganor, was there. And Mark Saganor actually invited all of the models back to Hugh Hefner's house for a party, to the mansion. She says she went to this party. I think she said the party was like in June of 2000, the year 2000, I think she said. She said when she went, she did not know what she was getting herself into. Now, she knew Hugh Hefner as the owner of Playboy. She would see him, you know, on red carpets with his 7 girlfriends on on his arm. She didn't know that it would be dangerous, she said. She just thought it was glitz and glamour. She also thought that the girlfriends was just for publicity. She did not really think that these girls were really dating Hugh Hefner and really sleeping with Hugh Hefner. And when she started hanging out at the mansion, that's what she was told. The girlfriends actually told Holly, this is for publicity. We don't really sleep with him. So like, if you want to become a girlfriend, you can, but you don't have to sleep with Hugh Hefner. This is all for publicity. I get that question a lot as well. When I did the video on the Shannon twins, the comments are, he wrote them a letter asking them to be his girlfriend. What did they think? Well, they're told by the other girlfriends that it's just for publicity. And I think the reason for this is because the girlfriends know that if they tell these young girls, you're going to have to sleep with them, the girls may be like, oh, never mind, and jet out. But if they say, oh, no, it's just for publicity, we're not really sleeping with Hef, they'll hang out, they'll go back to the mansion, and then they're put in this predicament where they either have to, jump up and run out of the room and never have any chance of going any further if they want to be a model or anything like that. They just have to jump up in the middle of what's happening and run out. Or they just go along with it because they're scared to say no, which is what happens in most of these situations. These girls literally believe that it's for publicity. That's what the other girlfriends tell them. Like, don't worry, you don't have to sleep with him. It's just for the cameras. It's just for his image. We don't sleep with him. And then they take these girlfriends out on the town to the clubs. And then when they go back to Hugh Hefner's, they bring them up to the room and they serve them to Hugh Hefner on a platter. And these girls are sitting there like, oh my goodness, this is not about to happen. Some of the women actually have got up and left. There's one girl later on in the episode or in the series, she talks about how she was up for Playboy of the Year and she was served on a platter to Hugh Hefner by one of the photographers, and she said this isn't happening, and she left, and she did not get Playboy of the Year. It was already, like, she already had it, but when she ran out of the room that evening, she found out that it was going to someone else. So getting back to Holly, Holly said she had no idea that there was any danger to this. Hugh Hefner was always portrayed as so kind, and all of his friends and all of the girls really talked him up to Holly. Holly also said that she longed to feel a connection with people, that she longed to feel some sort of acceptance into like a family, into a community. She said she later was diagnosed with Asperger's, and that could be, part of the reason why that she always felt like she just didn't really belong. But when she would go to the mansion and see everybody hanging out and everyone was just so lovely with each other, it felt like a little family that she wanted to be a part of. Now, at the time that Holly started attending these parties, Hugh Hefner had 7 girlfriends. Like I said, she was told she didn't have to sleep with him. Her role would only be for publicity. She said the first night that she went out with Hugh Hefner and the girlfriends, Hugh Hefner offered her Quaaludes, and as he bent over to offer her the Quaaludes, she said no, and he said something to the effect of, they used to call these thigh openers back in the day. And she told him she does not do drugs, that she didn't want to accept that. And he actually kind of commended her on it. He was like, oh, well, I respect that. I respect you for that. But she did say that she was very nervous that night, so she drank a lot, which in turn meant that she got really drunk. She said after they left the club, they went back to Hugh Hefner's mansion. She said at some point, everyone went upstairs, and walking into Hugh Hefner's room, she said there was this big screen and there was a pornographic film playing on the screen. At that point, everybody just kind of broke out into their role. She said that everybody just started acting like they were getting it on with each other. At one point, she looked over at one of her friends, the friend that actually brought her there, and the girl yelled at her to fake it. She says she really believes if cell phones were out during this time, like they are now, that half the girls would have been there, like, scrolling through Instagram, just looking at their phones, because none of these girls were really into what was happening and they were just faking it. She described it as robotic and mechanical. She also said that Hugh Hefner refused to wear protection. The next morning, she said she woke up feeling humiliated, but also felt branded, like there was nothing that she could do because she had already did the worst. She knew that people was going to judge her for her decision. Still wanting to feel this acceptance into this family, she decided that she was going to try to move in. She said she already knew that if she went back out into the world, back to, her roommate, she was going to be judged for what happened. So she just decided to try to move in, to which Hugh Hefner gladly accepted her to move into the mansion. At this point, she was not the main girlfriend, but she was one of the girlfriends. She figures she already slept with Hugh Hefner, did the worst of the worst, so maybe this could be her ticket to becoming a Playboy model and then maybe an actress. In the beginning, Holly said that she did find Hugh Hefner interesting, and they had a lot of the same things in common. They did like older films, black and white films. They enjoyed a lot of the same music. So they would sit and talk for hours, and they had a lot of the same things in common, but physically she was not attracted to him. However, she said that Hugh Hefner was really good at love bombing the girls that he was interested in. So he would kind of shower them with compliments and shower them with gifts that made them feel really special because, well, he was Hugh Hefner, and a lot of girls was trying to be in their position. All his friends was constantly telling Holly how amazing he was and how she was very lucky to be in the position that she was in. Holly ended up convincing herself that she was in love with Hugh Hefner. Now, when Holly moved into the mansion, she had this job where she was modeling, and there was also waitressing a part of this job, but she kept the job when she moved in. In time, though, Hugh Hefner made her quit the job because it made him jealous. That's what he told Holly, that she did not need to be working for her to leave to go to this job and show other people attention. That made him jealous. So he wanted her to quit the job and stay there. Now, he offered to pay her $1,000 a week to quit her job, to which she did so. She quit the job and she just became his full-time girlfriend for $1,000 a week. Things seemed to be going really good for a little bit. The show started, and Holly said when the show started, the first season, the girls were not even paid to be a part of the show. Production and Hugh Hefner made it clear that the show wasn't about them, that it was about Hugh Hefner, that people was going to be interested in him and his lifestyle, that any other blonde, big boob girl could play their part. So if they didn't want to do it, or if they had anything to complain about, they could leave and they could find someone else to fill their spot. So they weren't paid for the show. However, the show was a hit, and a lot of the fans showed a lot of interest in the girls. So when the time came for the girls to renew their contract, obviously they wanted to be paid. Now, the network did add in for the girls to be paid in this contract. However, there were some things in the contract that the girls were unsure of. When Hugh Hefner brought the contracts to the girls, Kendra, Bridget, and Holly and Bridget wanted their attorneys to look these contracts over to make sure they weren't getting screwed or anything. From my understanding, Kendra just went ahead and signed it, but Bridget and Holly, they wanted their lawyers to look it over. However, it was on the weekend. And Hugh Hefner brought it to them and was like, we got to hurry up and get these signed because we're going to start filming soon. These got to be signed by noon today. If they're not signed, production has to be put on hold. We're not going to be able to get things done in a timely manner like we need to. Holly and Bridget both told him, like, we want our lawyers to look it over. They said that he got very mad and basically told them that if they did not sign it, they would not be a part of the new season. So reluctantly, the girls both signed these contracts. Bridget and Holly both say that they felt pressured into signing the contracts. Now, one of the things that they do talk about, and I think this may have been in Holly's book, one of the things in the contract is they actually ended up signing away their likeness. So their names, their pictures, the network could use those in any way that they want, and the girls would not get paid for it. So when the show was really at the height of the era of the Girls Next Door, when it was like the main time of the show, was doing really well, they had slot machines and stuff in Vegas with the girls' names, with the girls' faces, and the girls got no commission from this. The girls did not get paid for having their name and their face on these slot machines. The girls had bobbleheads and things. I'm not sure if they made anything of the bobbleheads, but I do know for sure, like the slot machines, they made nothing off of. So that was a part of the contract, and the reason why the network and Hugh Hefner didn't want the girls to send the contracts off to their lawyers to be looked over by their lawyers, because they knew that the lawyers would catch these things. However, he talked them into signing them without having them looked over by an attorney. As time went on, even though what we saw of Holly was that she was very happy and that she was in love with Hugh Hefner, she says that she wasn't happy, that she was actually realizing just how unhappy she was. She realized that Hugh Hefner would try to pit the girls against each other, because if the girls were fighting with each other, he felt like they were fighting each other for him. He felt like the girls were fighting over him. So he often would do things like this. One of the things that he would do is he would tell the girls, why can't you be good like Holly? Which would make the girls kind of mad at Holly, and they didn't like Holly. And if they were bickering back and forth, he felt like they were bickering for him. Bridget also said that Hugh Hefner was very demanding of Holly's time. When the girls would want to go off and do something, often Holly wasn't allowed to go because Hugh Hefner wanted her to stay there with him. Bridget talks about a situation that happened where the girls and Hugh Hefner went to stay on the Queen Mary. They had booked the weekend to stay on the Queen Mary, and Bridget and Kendra decided that night they were going to get in their PJs and kind of roam around the ship. So that night they went to Holly and Hugh Hefner's room to get Holly to go join them. But when they asked if Holly could come, before Holly could even say anything, Hugh Hefner grabbed her by her hair and pulled her back away from Bridget and yelled that Holly could not go with them. Holly said in time things even got worse. So when they moved in, they automatically had this 9 p.m. curfew. Even though these women are grown, they could not leave the mansion if it was after 9 p.m. And if they were out, they had to be home by 9 p.m. Also, if they went out at any point in time, they had to take security with them, to which security would report back to Hugh Hefner what they ate, where they went, who they talked to, everything that the girls would do, they would report back to Hugh Hefner. Also, Holly talked about the isolation, that Hugh Hefner isolated her from family and friends, while Bridget and Kendra, they would get to go home and visit their family, that she really wasn't allowed to. Also, she talks about on Wednesday and Friday nights, they would go to the club and the girls would be tasked with scouting out new girls to bring home. And when they would get home on Wednesday and Friday nights, everyone would have to participate in sex. Holly says she no longer felt like she was a part of a family, but a part of a cult. Now, Sandra Theodore, who dated Hugh Hefner for several years, also talked about that as well, about how living with Hugh Hefner and living in the mansion was more like being part of a cult. She also talks about Hugh Hefner's strange fascination of Charles Manson. She says when she dated Hugh Hefner that he would often talk about Charles Manson and how he admired the women that followed Charles Manson. She said that he would sit and talk about Charles Manson for hours, and that he actually had home videos of Charles Manson and the people that followed him. And he would talk about how he just adored the fact that they adored Charles Manson so much. And that if his group of girls cared about him that much, that they could be like one big happy family. Which is totally strange to hear that Hugh Hefner adored Charles Manson. That's scary. I don't know, and I really feel like it kind of puts things in perspective of maybe even Hugh Hefner's desires, like of what his intentions were with his life and his lifestyle, like bringing these girls in, having them live a certain way, knowing that they were fascinated by him and they would do anything because he was Hugh Hefner. I feel like knowing that he was infatuated with Charles Manson, it really tells me that maybe he had the same agenda as Charles Manson, with maybe not, sending people out to kill people, but just knowing that these women would be obsessed with him and that they would do anything that he asked them to do. Whereas in Charles Manson's world, he would send people out to do things like kill people. Hugh Hefner, his world was he would have these girls do anything sexual that he wanted them to do. Throughout the series, you guys, it really gets dark. Some of the things that the girls talk about that Hugh Hefner would do. They talk about chaining women up and having women on the ground on all fours, beating them with ropes, and just basically torturing these women. All the while, these women were under the influence of alcohol and drugs. Now, even though Holly Madison is feeling like this is more like a cult than a family, and even though she's really unhappy, she decides that she at least needs to try to get something out of this. She's branded herself. She doesn't think she'll ever be able to leave and not be judged for what she's done. So she decides to go to Hugh Hefner and ask if she can pose for the magazine, at which he tells her no, that she's not pretty enough, she's not photogenic enough, and that if she wants to be in the magazine, there are certain things that she's going to need to change. Now, Hugh Hefner, along with a lot of his male friends, would strongly push plastic surgery on these girls. If one of these girls, needed to lose a little bit of weight, they would push for that. If these girls needed bigger boobs, they would push for that. Holly Madison ended up getting a nose job as well as breast implants while living at the mansion. She also kept her hair blonde, kept it about the same length as others, and all the girls often look a lot alike, you know, outside of their main facial features: blonde hair, big boobs. They dress very sexualized. They all had the same kind of look going for them, right? Now, in time, Holly was able to pose for the magazine. She attributes that to the show, really, and not because Hugh Hefner felt that she deserved it. Because the show was doing so well and these girls were so famous at this point, a lot of the fans wanted to see Bridget, Kendra, and Holly in the magazine. So Hef ended up allowing that to happen. I think she was in the magazine a total 3 times. Now, after this, she really got tired of looking like everyone else. She was very unhappy, so she decided she was going to cut her hair really short. After she cut her hair really short, she said that she got a cursing from Hugh Hefner. He did not like it. She also remembers the situation to where she came down wearing red lipstick. They were going to go out to dinner, and in front of everyone, he told her how ugly it looked, to wipe it off because it made her look old, cheap, and hard, and to never wear that shade of lipstick ever again. Now, just a few weeks later, Kendra comes down as they're all about to go out to dinner and to the club, and she's wearing red lipstick, and he kisses her on the cheek and tells her that it looks beautiful on her. Holly says this was just kind of a part of the mind games that he would often play to try to pit each other against each other. Now, Holly gets to the point to where she is so depressed that she's suicidal. She is in her bathtub one day and she just thinks to herself, if I was to just sink below the water and stay there until I drown myself, no one would even miss me. Holly says she felt like she was in a cycle that she could not escape. So she went to Hugh Hefner and told him that she felt like she needed to see someone because she was depressed, she was suicidal, and he told her that she could just go speak to the secretary, Mary O'Connell, because they did not want any bad press. She could not go to some shrink and tell the shrink that she, Holly Madison, Hugh Hefner's #1 girlfriend, was unhappy. That just wasn't going to fly. Now, like I said, throughout the series, the seasons of Girls Next Door, we were all led to believe that Holly Madison was madly in love with Hugh Hefner, wanted children with Hugh Hefner, wanted to get married to Hugh Hefner, and live in the mansion, just her and him. We were always led to believe that even though she liked Bridget and Kendra, that her deepest desires would be that they would eventually leave and that she would have Hugh Hefner all to herself. But in 2008, when Kendra and Bridget announced that they would be leaving, she knew that she did not want to stay. Holly knew that despite what we were all led to believe, that she did not want to stay there alone with Hugh Hefner. However, Holly was afraid that if she told him that she wanted to leave, that he would use revenge porn against her. She said Hugh Hefner has photos and videos of every person that's ever entered his home. Anybody that's ever entered the mansion. There's cameras everywhere in every room. There's video recorders everywhere in every room. Even the staff, like the butlers, they're wearing cameras with microphones and things to pick up what's being said. So she says he has blackmail and revenge porn on everyone. He has everyone in compromising positions, photos or videos of them in compromising positions. Holly figured that if she was to try to leave him, that he would use these photos or videos against her. But it got to the point to where she really could not let that worry her because she was so depressed with the thought of being there alone with Hugh Hefner. She eventually told him that she wanted to leave. At that point, he tried to talk her out of it, but she was like set. She was leaving. She was not happy. She really needed to get away and live her own life. She said one day while packing, she walked into the room and Hugh Hefner had left a will laying on the bed. Knowing that she would look in it, she discovered that if she was to stay, she would inherit $3 million upon his death. So if she stayed with him when he passed away, she would get $3 million. This was his way of trying to bribe her to stay. He knew she would look at that. She did, and he was hoping that it would make her stay. However, Holly said it didn't make her want to stay. It actually disgusted her that he felt that he could buy her back like that. So she decided, I'm not staying, I'm going to leave. And when she approached him again to say, I'm out, like I'm serious, I'm going to leave, that he actually cursed her for a see you next Thursday or see you next Tuesday. whatever it is. Holly said her time living in the mansion did a lot of damage to her and that she had to seek therapy for many, many years. And the reason she decided to write this book was because every time she would be out and about and she would meet with fans, they would ask her, do you miss Hugh Hefner? Do you miss the mansion? And she would always try to keep her answers, short and simple. How is Hef? He's good. Do you miss the mansion? Oh, I'm happy with where life is at right now. So she finally decided to address the elephant in the room and tell her story and to really let people know what her life was like living inside the Playboy mansion. And if you really want to know in-depth detail, get her book, Holly Madison, Cautionary Tales of a Playboy Bunny. I think that's what it's called. I will put a link in the description box below for you guys to check it out. Now, that's not it. There's a few more people that was a part of this series. Sandra Theodore is one as well. So I have a few things that she talked about. Now, Sandra talks about Hugh Hefner and how he often had these big orgies, right? Now, Holly talked about him a little bit, but Sandra, when she discusses her experience living at the mansion, she talks more in depth about it. She was only 19 years old when she got with Hugh Hefner. She was not bisexual. She was not attracted to women, but Hugh Hefner often pushed her to want to have sex with women, that he would often ask her to have sex with he and other women. He asked her over and over and over again and would tell her things like, if you really loved me, you would do this for me. Finally, she agreed. She told him, I'll do it one time. If I don't like it, I'm not going to do it again, to which he agreed. So she did it that one time. But after that, he continued to push her even more and more and more to where she just felt like she had to keep doing it, because if she wasn't going to keep doing it, that he would eventually leave her or make her leave. It got to the point to where not only was she having sex with women that she's, not even attracted to, but he would make her scope these women out when they would be at parties at the mansion. He would, look at a woman and he would tell her, go get her, go talk to her, bring her back to the room tonight. Sandra said she saw so many girls show up in the mansion just full of life, fresh face, just a real shine to them. But after spending time at the mansion and going up to Hugh Hefner's room and being taken advantage of, she said after that, they would just look washed out, that there would be a blank stare behind their eyes, that there would be a deadened look in their eyes, pretty much. She said so many of these girls showed up with hopes and dreams, but after being abused by Hugh Hefner, that they no longer had those desires, that they just looked dead inside. Sandra also talked about Hugh Hefner imitating romantic movies. And that led her to believe that he was like a fake, like he really didn't know how one would act if they were really in love. She said they would watch a romantic movie, and then the next night, he would imitate what he saw in the movie. If they watched a movie where a man would bring his lady out and dance with her in the rain, the next time it was raining outside, Hugh Hefner would pull her out and dance in the rain. He would imitate what he saw on these romantic movies. She also talked about how Hugh Hefner told her that he loved her so much that he would be willing to have children with her. But by that point, she said she knew that she was not where she needed to be, and that wasn't the life that she wanted to live. Sandra also says her experiences got more and more scary. She said the things got more and more extreme. Finding things to satisfy him for the moment only satisfied him for the moment. And one thing would be okay that night, but the next night he needed something more extreme. She said she knows a lot of dark things that Hugh Hefner did. Now, you guys, that's the main gist of the second episode. It's mainly Holly, a little bit of Sandra. Sandra's story is in a few episodes down, I do believe, but her story is very interesting. So I'll keep doing these recaps. Leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. From the sounds of it, from Holly's story, you go into this really thinking you're like playing a part, that you're just going to be this lady on Hugh Hefner's arm, that it's all for his image, that you're not really a girlfriend. You think, oh, I'm going to get the luxuries of this certain lifestyle in turn to pretend to be his girlfriend, but really you're not pretending. You have to do all these things that you're not even okay with. You get put in these positions to where you are really in a tough spot. You get brought up to the room where you've been told this whole time, oh no, we don't sleep with Hugh Hefner. Then you're brought up to the room where this film is playing and all these women, they immediately just jump into this role of, pretending like they're having sex with each other. And then you either run out or you join in. And a lot of these women, they would join in because they didn't really know what to do. And they had hopes and desires of becoming actresses or become Playboy models. So they just went ahead and they went with it. And the next day they felt like, well, I've done it already, so I might as well hang out here, reap the benefits of what I've done. Holly tells us that Hugh Hefner was not this, sweet Mr. Nice guy. She said on the show he was portrayed as this sweet old man, this sweet grandpa. And she said reality, that's not who he was. He was manipulative. He was a mastermind, and he could get away with doing all these dirty things and manipulating these women. And the whole time, nobody even really knew what was going on. You guys leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. I will be doing a recap to the 3rd episode. They are coming, you guys. These take so long. They take a long time to edit, but they're very interesting. And if you don't have time to watch them, or if you don't have access to watch them, I really do enjoy bringing you guys the recaps. Please leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you give this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everyone.